Hi, this is just a short video to try and rationalize this sum. Or indeed, writing it another way, this sum. So the best thing to do when you're finding it challenging to quantify a sum, go back to something you know. Work with numbers that are easy to work with. See how they work and then translate it back to the more complex numbers, or surds in this case. So let's think about something we know. If I say 6 plus 5 minus 5 equals 6, that probably sits quite comfortably with you. And let's just explore that a little bit mathematically. What we've done is we've started with a number. We've then added 5 and taken away 5. Plus and minus are the inverse of each other. So if we take a value and then we do the inverse operation with the same value, then we just end up back where we started. So that's our first piece of logic. When you're doing the inverse operation to a value, then you're just back to where you started from. Okay, so let's move that on a bit and let's look at roots, but we're going to take a number that's easier to work with. So we're going to look at that. Square root of 4. Now, what is the inverse of a square root, a square root? Well, it is a square. If we square root any value, then that is the opposite to squaring it. Okay, so again, they are inverse. So if we are looking for the square root of 4, if we then square it, going by our previous example, we should end up back where we started from with 4. So let's try it. So we can do it in 2 stages. We could think, what is the square root of 4? It is 2. And then we've got to square that. And indeed, we get back to 4. So there's our first sum. And we should be getting some sort of understanding from that. Okay, let's look at it another way. So we could have said square root of 4. Let's put the square inside there and see if that makes any difference. Well, here we're going to do the square part first because the square root is going all the way around that. So what is 4 squared? It's 16. So we leave the square root there, but we've dealt with the square part, and that's 16. We now are left with the square root of 16. And what's the square root of 16? 4. So again, we're seeing the same answer. Okay, so now let's try writing this out in full. If we've got the square root of 4 squared, that is the same as saying the square root of 4 times the square root of 4, because we know squared means multiplying it by itself. And square root of 4 is 2. Square root of 4 is 2. So therefore, the answer is indeed 4. So now we should have made some progress in showing that that equals 4 and that also equals 4. And once you feel comfortable with that and you can rationalize that, then it's just one step to looking at surds and knowing that the same thing must be true. If we take any number and multiply it by itself, that is the same as squaring it. And hopefully we have now shown that if you do the square root and the square, then by this statement here, we can see that you're just back to your starting number. Okay, food for thought. I hope that's been helpful.